Welcome to the Philippine Islands, this most fascinating archipelago of over 7,100 islands here in Southeast Asia. In this video you'll be able to come with us to the large Mindanaoan city of Davao. You'll be able to come with us to the port city of Batangas and then move house with us from the port city of Batangas to a smaller place in Batangas province called Tanawan. And of course we don't want to neglect Manila, where our daughter Jessica is in school. And then at the end of the video you will see how we managed to end up here at one of the most famous tourist destinations near to Manila here in this country. Until 1821, the Philippines were administered from Mexico. In 1898, the Spanish-American War broke out. The Filipinos, seizing their chance to strike against the Spanish, fought on the side of the Americans, and on the 12th of June 1898, Aguinaldo declared the independence of the Philippines. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, Japanese troops landed on Luzon and conquered Manila on the 2nd of January 1942. The Filipino and American troops suffered defeats with high casualty rates in battles at Corregidor Island and on the Bataan Peninsula. This resulted in the brutal Japanese military rule which lasted until 1944. On the 4th of July 1946, the Philippines received full independence. Ferdinand E. Marcos was elected to power in 1965 and also, unusually for the Philippines, was re-elected. Following the election, both candidates claimed victory, and on the 25th of February 1986, both Ferdinand Marcos and Corazon Aquino were sworn in as President of the Republic of the Philippines in separate ceremonies. Later that same day, Marcos fled into exile in Hawaii, and Cory Aquino stood unopposed. She annulled the Constitution and abrogated Parliament. The Philippines officially consists of 7,107 islands, of which only 2,000 are inhabited. Only about 500 of the islands are larger than a square kilometre, and 2,500 of them aren't even named. The total area of the Philippines is 299,404 square kilometres. From north to south, the Philippines stretch for 1,850 kilometres, and from east to west for 1,100 kilometres. In 1984, the population stood at 55 million. I think now, in 1991, we can say the population of the Philippines stands at nearer to 70 million. Manila is the largest city with 1.6 million people, but including the suburbs such as Quezon, Caloocan and Pasay, the population of Metro Manila is over 8 million. One of our main responsibilities here in Batangas over the past year has of course been studying the Tagalog language, the main national language of the Filipino people. And here I'm standing outside of the OMF-run Batangas Language Centre here in the Garcia subdivision, the place where many of you have written letters to us in the past year. OMF run this language school, but it's not always so that we are fully staffed with OMF language learners. The reputation of this particular language school is very high in the country. We've now come inside the language centre, and you can see that behind these curtains there are 5 separate cubicles in which the teachers teach the students. The school day runs from 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon in 3 sessions of 3 lessons each, and the teachers who are recruited from the local community teach all day here and are paid a salary accordingly. At the moment we don't have so many OMF students here, so we're able to hire out the facilities to other missions like the RBMU, International and SIL, and there's even been one student from Youth with a Mission studying here.
Okay, I'm Romeo Gilio, a member of language teaching staff here in Batangas Language Center. These are the books used by the student studying language, Tagalog language here in this language school. These books are used for about 3 months sa kanilang outing.
Nag-anyaya ang isang maestro Kaloy sa kanilang outing.
Okay. Nag-anyaya ang isang
maestro Kaloy sa kanilang outing.
Nag-anyaya sa ibang araw na lang.
Hindi bale 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 sa ibang araw na lang.
Ang dami mo namang dala.
Ang dami mo namang dala.
Ang dami mo namang
we'd have to
magdala.
answer
Ang dami mo
questions on
namang
that
dalaman.
story.
Hindi bale, sa ibang
Each of
araw
the
na
three
lang.
periods
Hindi
is
bale,
taken
sa
by a
ibang araw
different
na lang.
teacher,
Ang dami mo
and that is
namang
followed
dala.
by
Ang
2
dami mo
hours
namang
practice a
dala.
day.
Ang dami
And
mo
then
namang
when we
dala.
get
Ang
home,
dami mo
we
namang
need to
dala.
prepare for
Lang
the next
outing.
lesson,
Nag-anyayaya
complete
ang
with the
isang
cassettes
maestro
that
kay
we
Lois
used
sa
to
kanilang
prepare with.
outing.
Okay, Lois, sama ka sa amin sa
Usually,
Sabado.
our language
Lois,
learning
sama ka sa amin
requirement
sa
would take up
Sabado.
6 to 7
Lois,
hours a day.
sama ka
So
sa
for
amin
us,
sa Sabado.
we
Lois,
treat it
sama ka
very
sa
much
amin sa
like our
Sabado.
day job.
May outing kami
That is
ng
our
mga
job here
kaibigan
in
ko sa
Batangas
Anilaw.
language learning.
May outing kami ng mga...
After our 2 hours at the language centre down in the subdivision, we usually come out into the town during the afternoon in order to find Filipinos that we can practice our Tagalog with. One of my main kausaps, as the word is in Tagalog, is a baker here on one of the busy streets in Batangas City. And I usually come here most afternoons to practice with him some Tagalog. Kumusta?
Okay.
Mabuti? Gusto kong bumili ng mga chippies. Yeah, magkano ang paketa?
3 piso.
3 peso? Oo, okay. Maraming salamat. Usually I'm not actually buying commodities here, but I'm just sitting down and practicing Tagalog and having some talking with them. And just before I went to on a holiday to Davao, we had 5 Bible studies in John's Gospel here. So it's been quite a fruitful relationship that we've managed to build up with the people who live here. All the people here are from an island just outside Batangas City, and so when I come round here there could be anything from 4 to 10 people here who've just dropped in from the island to see their friends. It's a bit of a meeting place for all those people from that island. One of the places that we usually come to practice our Tagalog is the Lumang Palengke, which in Tagalog means the old market. And I'm just going to enter the fish section, and I wish you could smell it with me. We're going now into the fish section here in the old market, and as you can see there are a lot of fish and people selling their wares, and this area is reserved for fish. And as you move up this dark passageway ahead of us, you come into an area where they're selling a lot of meat. Pig's heads for lidson, sausages, all types of meat are on sale here. One of my kausaps in this part of the market is a believer, but unfortunately he's not here today because his daughter is having a birthday, so they're celebrating the birthday. But we have got some kausaps in the bigasan, which is the rice section, and we'll go over there now. Okay, now we're now moving along to the rice section. On our right we have the end of the clothes section. On our left we have people selling sandals and all sorts of household things that you might need, sewing thread. All around us there are people selling different bits of fruit and vegetables come in from the countryside, which they would bring in the mornings in the jeepneys. And this place would be working from about 5 o'clock in the morning till about 5 o'clock at night, and it's one of the busiest places in the country, in the town. There are a lot of sari stores, and just as I'm coming up here on my left are the bigasan, the rice section, which is manned by some of our friends from different parts of the town. Hi, kumusta? Ano? Now we're in the bigasan section of the old market, and you can see here different piles of rice, and these are because they are different strains of rice, different types of rice, all with different prices. And of course the price of rice is a very important price here for the index of the cost of living, because this is the staple diet of the majority of Filipinos for breakfast, for lunch and for supper. The average price for rice of an average quality is about 11 peso at the moment, and it's weighed out here on the scales, and people buy it by the kilo or the 2 kilos depending on what they want. Polo, yeah? My lugar, yeah? Okay, here we go. This jeep is packed full, and very typical of a typical jeep here in Manila, in that from where they start they wouldn't leave there until they're completely full up and ready to go. And as we go up Ortigas, people will get off to go to their respective places of business or their houses. Because of the pollution here in Metro Manila, one of the things that you will see as you go around town is many of the ladies especially clasping handkerchiefs to their mouths to keep out the dust particles and the general pollution that is in the air here. One of the largest of the 7,000 islands that make up the Philippines is the island of Mindanao. Davao is the capital of that island, and it's 1,500 kilometers due south of Manila. In Davao, OMF have a mission home, which at the present is run by the Coulson family. From this mission home, a variety of ministries are undertaken throughout the whole island of Davao. We have some people working in tribal work, others working in multi-religious and now Muslim people, and some working in urban ministry in Davao City itself.
It's New Year's Eve here in Davao City, and one of the things that Filipinos do on New Year's Eve is set off a lot of fireworks. So we thought we'd try and buy some, and Michael here with me is very interested in what sort of fireworks that I'm going to buy. So I'm just going to go over to this fireworks seller and see if we can get a good deal for the fireworks that we want to buy. Yeah, fireworks here?
Fireworks.
Right.
Ito?
Magkano ang ito?
15.
Dito? Anong nangyari dito? Kaunti? Anong nangyari?
35, 3 pieces.
Oh no. May dalawa? Dalawa sa loob at lahat 100 peso. 100 eh? Yeah? 100 peso ang lahat at libre ang posporo.
1 peso.
Okay. 100 lahat. Yeah? Okay, maraming salamat para sa inyong tulong. As you can see, we've managed to achieve a little bit of a deal here. We managed to get a few price reductions and also to get something that will brighten up the night tonight here in Davao as we go into 1991. San Pedro? Yeah? San Pedro, malapit sa gusto namin pumunta sa Toril. Kailangan namin iba-ibang jeep. Yeah? Yeah, may dalawa, pero dito muna, yeah? Here in the Philippines in the last 6 months there's been a number of crises. Of course there was the earthquake and there were some dreadful floods in Manila in August, not to mention a major bridge collapsing over a river in Manila, as well as the continuing economic crisis caused by Saddam Hussein's antics in the Gulf. And many of the believers here in this country have been using this as some of the reasons to call the country to repentance. And if you go around some of the Jeepneys and some of the places here, you will see the text from 2 Corinthians chapter 14 about the Lord restoring the land of those people who are prepared to repent of their sins. And we just noticed here in this Jeep, we've got the same text from 2 Chronicles 7:14 on the back of the Jeep here. And a number of the Christian leaders here in this country are very concerned about the spiritual state of the country and are calling the whole nation to repentance and to prayer and to a sacrificial lifestyle in the face of the overwhelming odds that the Philippine Islands faces at this moment in time. Rather than the usual Philippine habit is maybe to blame Mrs. Aquino or the ineptness of the government, the people are seeing this as a greater spiritual thrust forward at this time to call the nation to prayer and to a time of repentance. Here we are just driving past the San Pedro Hospital in Davao City on one of the circular jeepney routes in the town, and our driver is a believer. He goes to a Southern Baptist church here in Davao City. It's quite often to meet jeepney drivers who are believers here in the Philippines, and it's always a great encouragement for us when they know what organisation we're with and what we're doing in the country. Get in the back. Salamat. Yeah, stand up. Whee. This is very typical jeepney here in the Philippines, with music blasting out full volume. One thing I would recommend to any one of you who wants to come to the Philippines to work as a missionary is that you do like rock music before you get here, because you're going to hear it everywhere you go. Every bus, every jeepney usually has music of some sort playing. It doesn't take long in this country to attract a crowd of people, and it's quite often the children who will come out to be friendly with you. And here we are outside the Davao cockpit at the bottom of the hill. We've now come inside the cockpit here in Davao City, and it's a weekend afternoon, and you can see there's quite a lot of Filipinos here enjoying the weekend cockfighting activity. Down here we have a fight still going on between these two cocks, even though one of them at this stage of the competition looks rather battered and somewhat down and out. These fights seem to continue more or less all of the afternoon, one after the other, with a lot of money laid on on the different cocks as they are brought in for their particular fights. We're standing here on one of the main roads into Davao on a Sunday afternoon. As you can see, the Keep Sunday Special Lobby would be having a wonderful time in this country. Sunday is a popular day for all sorts of activities. Many shops and businesses are open on Sundays, and it's not uncommon for Filipinos to work 7 days a week without any days off. At least all of the friends that we know from the market in Batangas, it would be very common for them to have a 7-day week. Going past this cockpit here in Davao are jeeps and PUs, which are public utility vehicles, which are a bit like taxis, and 1 or 2 private cars. I understand that only 4% of people in this country own their own cars, so the majority of people have to rely on jeepneys for getting around, and that's a very common phenomenon here in this country, the jeepney. One of OMF's projects here in Mindanao is the Manobo tribal work here in Davao del Norte province. This morning we've travelled the 98 kilometres by crowded bus and jeepney up to this tribal village where some of our OMF missionaries are working. One of the fascinating things about living in this country and travelling through the countryside is one notices what good use the Filipinos make of the land that can be tilled. This country, of course, is famous for the Banawi rice terraces of northern Luzon, but even here in this little valley you can see what use they're making of this valley floor. Just about all of it is cultivated, and as you look around you'll see the different rice fields that have all been terraced and made so the water flows from one to the other in different stages of production. You'll have some fields which are just being watered and being planted, some which are half grown, and others that are fully grown and ready for harvest. And we will notice also that whenever you travel past a particular set of fields in a regular basis, you'll see these different aspects of the harvest season of the rice field at varying stages all the year round. I believe that most fields can yield 2 to 3 harvests a year in the Philippines, and so that makes this country fairly well off for growing its own rice. Unfortunately, because of economic policies of recent years, the irony of the situation is that despite an extensive development program based in Los Baños, south of Manila, this country actually has to import rice to meet its needs, which is a little bit ironical when you travel around this countryside and see how many rice fields there really are. I have with me here 2 OMF colleagues, Barbara Unger from Canada and Liz Gwither-Jones from Wales. And I'm going to ask them a few questions about the Manobo team. Firstly, Barbara, can you please tell the viewers where we actually are? What's the name of this village?
We're in the village of Tagpapot, and this is the church, the Manobo Bible Association Church.
How many churches would there be in this area of Davao del Norte?
In this particular zone, we have 5 churches.
And how many different Manobo areas are there in Mindanao? Do you know?
Four zones.
Four
huh?
zones.
Yeah.
Four different zones, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you know how long the work has been going amongst the Manobo, OMF's involvement with the Manobo people?
OMF has been involved here about 12 years, since the first missionaries arrived.
Are you the only people on the team, or is the team made up of other OMF missionaries?
There's about, how many, 30 people?
And on the Manobo team?
On the Manobo team, there's probably about 30 people made up of Americans, Canadians, South African, German, Dutch, have I missed somebody? Welsh.
Okay, Liz.
I would just like to say that some of our work has really been hindered this year by the fact that we can't travel, we can't be free in our travel like we used to, because basically of the insurgency problems. There have been sort of threats this year with hostage and that kind of thing. So we can't go upriver to visit other villages which we would like to be more involved in. So if that's one thing that people at home could be praying for, that we would be able to go back into those villages and into those areas in which there are no missionaries and very little growth in the churches, and some places no churches.
Apart from the problems with the New People's Army, could you also relate how the serious economic situation here affects a group of people like the Manobo? Does it have much effect on them up here in the rural parts of the Philippines?
Well, I mean, economics is a very that's a very wide area, and it does affect every part of their lives, because if they often the crops fail, and then they have no money, and so they have to borrow money from people, and then they can't pay it back, and then that starts inter-tribal fighting, or somebody has a debt and so somebody wants to shoot him because he can't pay it.
Or else the Basayan takes their land away, or the bank takes the land.
Or they lose their land. Then somebody gets sick in the family and they can't pay the bills and people die. They haven't got enough to eat. It affects every part of their lives. So that's one of the big problems in Manobo culture, economics.
So the whole issue of land is very important
Very
here.
important.
Okay. Barbara, can you tell us a little bit more about the socio-economic program amongst the Manobo people?
Another thing that I guess the Jansens mainly are involved in is supplying the villages with clean water, because a lot of health problems come simply from not having clean water supplies. So we're installing water filters in areas that have a very, very, very poor water supply.
And do you have a major problem with things like TB up here and malaria?
TB and malaria are the biggest health problems. They, I would guess the highest death rate comes from, among children anyways, is usually from complications from measles, because as you've noticed, there's no electricity. Vaccinations do not live, or they're not powerful anymore after a few hours out of refrigeration, so it's very difficult to get vaccinations to people out in the rural areas. So, and
okay, thank you very much for doing this little interview. Hope you enjoy the rest of your lives.
you too.
Ini ang
store is actually not an ordinary store, but it's a cooperative store, which means that 17 Manobo families have put money into this store and started this small business in the hope that this will grow and more people will join, and this will hopefully help their economic development eventually. And maybe more villages, if they see that this is a good example and it actually works and it provides for the needs of the people here, then maybe this could be reproduced in other Manobo villages.
Where would the people buy the produce that they sell in this store? Would they get it sort of cut price in a market, or how would they go about getting it?
They can get it from Tagum, one of the local towns, at a reasonable price, and then they bring it here and they can sell it for a little bit more expense.
Liz, would people come in from the outlying areas to shop in this store, rather like we go into Davao or into Tagum to shop?
Yes, maybe. It's basically to serve the families of this village, but there are many people that come through this village from other villages upriver through here and to take their produce, sell it in Tagum, and they'll stop by here and they may buy something here on the way. So
you say it would be used by the families in the village. How many families or how many people live in this village?
It's about 40 families in this village.
Might be, what, 350 people or so?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Then there's another village just 40 minutes walk away, and there would be maybe, I don't know, maybe about 30 families there. Used to a typical Manobo house. The house is made of bamboo, which has been opened out to make this kind of walling, and often under the house Manobos like to keep animals, chickens, sometimes a pig. In this case they keep ducks here, but the ducks aren't here at the moment, okay? They've gone out. Most of the Manobo housing is on legs, so that when the rain comes then they don't get washed away with a flood. Well, let's go inside. Ayo!
Dayon. No,
Oh. Usually we take our shoes off when we go into Manobo, so I better follow that. No, Anajan, kamusta? Usually the house is just made of one room, it's like the dining room, the bedroom and the kitchen all in one. This is the granddaughter of this lady. They have a very nice way of putting the baby to sleep. We're just putting her into what we call a malong and suspending it from the ceiling. And so this can be rocked and the baby can go to sleep. Nice little cheap way of sending baby to sleep. This area is the kitchen area where they keep the plates and cups and saucers. This family, they're fortunate, they do actually have some plates, cups and saucers. Many families don't have these facilities, and so they use banana leaves and maybe a jam jar as a cup. But this family, they do have some things. This is the cooking area. A fire is made down below here in this tray, and then the pot is just hung over like so, suspended over the fire, which then cooks it nicely. The wood fires often make the ceiling black, so this area of the house, the roofing is all black because of the fire here.
Behave nice, maybe Uncle Chris will show you on video.
Another of OMF's provisions for us here in the Philippines is the Baguio holiday home, which gives us an opportunity to get away from the burning heat of the lowlands during the hot season. Most of the OMF missionaries in the Philippines spend at least some part of their holiday time in Baguio, and it was there last summer where we had to endure a very severe earthquake. The mission home itself was quite severely damaged when a chimney crashed through the roof onto the seat where I'd just been sitting a few moments before. When I felt the first force of the earthquake, I ran out onto the terrace. And from the terrace we were able to see and to hear the effects of the earthquake on the mountain town of Baguio. The next day, I was able to go out into the town to observe what had happened to the town during the earthquake. It was quite apparent that many of the buildings there had been severely damaged, and over 8 major hotels had collapsed or been partially subsiding from the ground on the ground floor. As you went around town, you saw the beginnings of a tent city, where many people, too afraid to return indoors, were beginning to put up makeshift accommodation outside their homes and in the open spaces that were available. When you went to places like the Hyatt Hotel or the Nevada, you could see the real full force impact of such a severe earthquake, where these 2 major tourist hotels had been completely demolished and of course had also caused a lot of lives to be lost. I understand from people who've been up in Baguio recently that the town is now restoring itself bit by bit to its former glory, but it will be a long time before the 8,000 holiday tourist beds will be replaced adequately. But for us from OMF, the mission home is completely restored to such a state that we wouldn't have known it was ever damaged. And so Baguio is once again fulfilling its function as a place of rest for weary missionaries.
Get in shots. Okay. So now we're on the trike and going on up this main road, which I think is called Sunset Boulevard, past some very English sounding names, because some of the roads in this area name things like Chatham and Brentwood, and so you've got some very sort of English influences here in this area. I've just seen one that's called San Francisco Road, so it's not all English influence. In fact, they've probably taken the names from a map of America anyway. Many of the teachers from Faith Academy live on this subdivision. It's fairly convenient for the school, which is just up on the hill above this area. And OMF have 3 of the hostels in this area. The other one is just up in the hills beyond Faith Academy. Riding on these motorbikes or these motorized tricycles is rather fun. You have to hold on to your luggage, and also if you're sitting on the back of the bicycle or the motorbike like I am, you need to make sure that you don't hit your head against a very low little canopy that's just keeping the sun off us here. This is the dry season now, and things are beginning to get very brown. The rains hopefully will now be away for a few months, and the country will be able to enjoy the cooler part of the year, which is between January and March, which leads up to the April, May, June national holidays here in the Philippines, which is also the hottest time of the year. So at this moment in time, it's one of the most pleasant times to visit this country, and also one of the most pleasant times to actually live here. We're just nearing the hostel now, and as you can see, by the way, this is jerky around. The road is not the most smoother one. In fact, there's a lot of potholes as we try and circumvent an area which gets heavily damaged by rain. Sekaliwa. Now we're just approaching Jessica's hostel, which is just here on the left, and we'll stop right outside to see who's here. Magkano ang bayad? 4? 5. Oh, 5. Mahal. Mas mahal na yun, eh? Mas itaas ng presyo ng gasolina, ha?
Okay.
Sige.
Thank you.
After a week of term, we returned to the hostel here just in order to have a chat with 2 very special people for our family life and our ministry here in the Philippines.
And I'm talking here to Glenn and Debbie Barlow, who are from the States, who run this elementary hostel here in Manila. Firstly, I'd like to ask you some of the facts about the hostel. Firstly, how many children do you have here? How many nationalities do they come from? And how many families do they represent?
Okay, we have 6 dorm children plus our 3 Barlow children. The 6 dorm children represent England, Germany, Jessica being English German, and Holland, and America. I think that's it. Yeah. The minority being Americans. And what's the other question?
How many families?
How many families?
Yeah.
4 different families.
So you've got some brothers and sisters here, yeah?
And we have 3 siblings from one family, and the other 3 are individual kids from different families. The Taylors have 3 kids here, and then there's 3 others.
I've sometimes described you to people in letters as the nearest thing to professional dorm parents that you'll ever get. Can you say why you left your dorm parenting responsibilities in the States to come over here to the Philippines to endure what you've had to endure the last 3 years in order to look after our children?
I think we just felt like God wanted us to be a part of a worldwide ministry, and that being able to work with people from different parts of the world and to allow them to actually go out and minister to folks that hadn't heard the Word of God. And for us to do that, we needed to be the parents to the children so that the parents could go to places that there were no schools available.
Talking about how far flung the parents are, I mean, how far away actually do your children come? I mean, how far away is the furthest island here?
Davao would be
1,500 kilometers.
1,500 kilometers, I guess.
So you have families who are based with their ministry in the home on Davao, and their children fly up to Manila for the term time. Is that how it works?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they're able to see their kids once every 9 months.
Every 9 weeks.
Excuse me, 9 weeks.
Okay.
So
because they go home at half term and at the
half term,
Spring and
Christmas.
fall break.
the regular holidays.
Right.
Yeah. What would you say then were your main responsibilities here? Of course you have lots of details connected with everybody's life, but what would be the sort of main, what do you see as your main ministry to the children and to us as parents and to the wider family of OMF?
Being parents to the kids. That's my major prayer request when I write home in prayer letters. Pray that we would be the substitute parents, the best substitute parents that we could be, so the parents can go and minister and have a peace about their kids being here. Our responsibilities, our main responsibilities to you is to keep you informed of how your daughter is growing, of how things are happening in her life, how she's adjusted, and just writing you letters, sending you school papers and those kind of things that keep you in touch with her. Anything that a parent would do is our responsibility to the kids.
As you go on home assignment shortly and you look back over your last 3 years, can I ask you both what has been the highlight or the main purpose that you've identified since you've been here in the hostel?
You start.
I guess for me would be seeing the children grow physically, spiritually, emotionally, educationally, the whole realm that they do grow, because the parents, if we're long-term dorm parents, then we're able to see this growth over a period of time. Mm-hmm. And for the parents, then they're able to see that their child is getting the proper care if they're growing emotionally in all these different ways. Mm-hmm. And so that is important for us to be able to see that.
I've noticed just in the short time we've had Jessica in the hostel how much she has grown socially. You know, she has lots of ideas which have obviously been stimulated by the creativity of the other kids here and the whole environment that you've set up with the stimulating pictures on the walls and stuff. Debbie, what would be your highlight, or what's the thing you love most about being here?
Hugs. Relationships and hugs. I feel like we have really good relationships with the kids and get lots of hugs, and I give lots of hugs every day.
So you're very much like the mother to them, yeah?
Yeah, that's really special.
Okay, thank you very much then for doing this interview, going through this ordeal by camera, and just like to put on record our appreciation for your ministry here in Manila, for our family at least, and I know others appreciate it too.
Thank you.
We're standing here in Quiapo, in the area where the main mosque in the country is. This is an area where many Muslims live. It's also an area where there are many different shops and markets and bridges, and many people are crammed into this part of Manila. It's a very heavily populated area. We've just come from Malacanang Palace, and we're going to the Balikbayan shop where you can buy souvenirs which have been made all over the Philippines. But as you can see, this area is an area where there's a high density of population and quite a high degree of poverty. We're now in Quiapo, which is right in the center of the Metro Manila district. This is one of the most overcrowded, heavily populated regions. It's the area where there's a lot of Muslims living, and it's also the home of this church which is behind us, the Basilica of Nazareth. As you can see outside the church here, there are a number of people who are selling different forms of herbal medicine which are very popular here in the Philippines. Instead of people consulting a doctor or even going to their pastor, they would go to the person who is called an albulario, which is similar to a local sort of witch doctor, and he or she might prescribe for them some of these greens that you see on sale here. Now, a few months ago these sellers had been moved out, I think by the church authorities, but I see now that they've all come back. You can buy plenty of different medicines in all these different bottles for any kind of ailment that you might have. Fiestas are a very important part of life here in the Philippines, and this fiesta that they have in Quiapo on January the 9th every year, in which they parade the Black Nazarene and some of the other statues from inside this church, is one of the most famous here in the Philippines. Some of you may have seen pictures of crowds and crowds of people trying to lean over to touch the Black Nazarene as it goes past on a cart. And the Black Nazarene is housed in this church behind us, and we're now going to go in and see what's inside. Now as we come inside, we see that there's some form of mass on at the moment, and also a lot of people come into the back of the church here to pray or to be quiet, but it's not actually a particularly quiet place. Behind us we have one of the crosses here, the crucifixes of Jesus on this wall, where people will come along and try to touch his feet, as it will give them some kind of blessing, and they'll spend the time in just meditation at the foot of this crucifix. Behind me there's a statue of a kneeling man carrying a cross. If you look closely, you can see that in the glass that separates the people from the statue, there's a little hole. And when people come in here, they try to put their hand through the hole in order to be able to touch the statue, in order to receive some kind of blessing from it. Any Christian worker here in the Philippines has to contend with the fact that there are many different cults and groups already here in this country. Some of them, of course, are familiar to Western listeners, and those would be groups like the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons. But there is one particular group that is indigenous to the Philippines itself, and that is the Iglesia ni Cristo. And this is their international headquarters because they have branches in Canada, the States and Britain now. And this is their international headquarters near to the OMF building here in Quezon City. Here they have a temple, all the administrative offices where they keep a record of all the tithes that the members are forced to give, and also their institute for ministry where they train their church workers and pastors. So for those of us who are involved in church planting in this country, we have to take seriously the challenge that is presented to us by a truly Filipino church, uninfluenced by America, that has grown rapidly since its inception in 1916. Here I'm standing outside the Tanawan Bible Church. The Tanawan Bible Church is here in the town of Tanawan, which is a lot closer to Manila than the town of Batangas was. Our purpose here is to consolidate our Tagalog after our 1 year of formal language study at the Batangas Language Center. Our responsibilities here, at least initially, will include attending the Sunday services, attending the Tuesday morning staff meeting, and also being involved with the missions committee here in the church. As our Tagalog improves, we hope to be more involved with some of the daughter churches associated with the Tanawan Bible Church. All around us in this area there are a number of small towns and villages in which Tanawan Bible Church has been planting daughter churches over the last 12 to 15 years, and at the moment there are 12. We will hope to be involved in preaching and teaching in some of these churches as our Tagalog improves. Hopefully when we've got through section 3 and into section 4, but that really depends on how things go. We'll be working here in Tanawan, each with our own language helper, who will come to us for 2 hours a day, and then we'll be doing very much the same as we did in Batangas, going out into the town and practicing Tagalog with some of the people that you will find in the market and in the different shops here. One of the central places in any town here in the Philippines is the public market. It's usually flanked, as it is here in Tanawan, by many jeepney stops, and I'm standing outside the market here in front of the people who are selling some of the sort of Filipino fast food, inihaw and different things that people will buy, chicken and chicken's legs and stuff, and it's often a very smelly and colourful experience to be standing outside a market. If you go inside you'll find plenty of fruit and vegetables and all sorts of things for sale, but if you come with us now, we'll take a look at what's inside. As you can see, there are a lot of different types of fruit on sale. These orange and green looking fruit are calamansi, and can be used to make a very refreshing juice as well as touching up fish and things like that. There's cinturis there, which are somewhat similar to oranges, and if you go on up here you'll find some tomatoes and some chicos too. Chicos are, I think they're about $2.50 each, and here we have some stuff that looks like some kind of weed, but is probably very nutritious. Ano ito? Kamote. Oh yeah, kamote.
Your drink.
Here we have some tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, bananas. You get pineapples, atis, a whole variety of fruit and vegetables are on sale in a typical Filipino market. In a market like this you'll find just about everything that you could ever want. Here is some salt for sale. It's all stacked up here in this little trailer. Over here you have onions and macaroni, spaghetti and a number of different types of maize and stuff. And just over here I've just espied something here. This is a famous Filipino delicacy. It's called balut, and inside here you have the half-formed body of an 18-day-old chicken, and this is something that's very nutritious and something that Filipinos like to eat, and I've actually eaten it once. That was 12 years ago, and I hope that I never have to eat it again. But this is called balut, and you often hear the balut sellers going past your house in the evening selling this type of egg with this half-formed chicken in, and usually people eat it in one go and swallow it whole.
ang ating lahat. Siya ay higit sa lahat, gumagawa sa lahat, at suma sa lahat.
Ang bawat isa sa ating binigyan ng tanging kaloob ayon sa sukat na binigay ni Kristo.
Ganito ang sinasabi ng kasulatan. Nang umakyat siya sa kalangitan, nagdala siya ng mananlihag at nagbigay ng mga kaloob sa tao.
This morning, we would like to present to you from an overseas missionary fellowship. Siya po ay mula sa England. Ang kanya po may bahay is from Germany. So sila po ay alay ngayon. Nauso ngayon yung nationals. Ito po sa umagang ito ay meron silang 3 anak. Yeah. At talagang nandoon sa puso nila ang paglingkod sa Panginoon. Yeah, I would like to call Mr. Chris and Susanne Wigram.
Maraming salamat para sa inyong paanyaya sa akin. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Chris, taga Inglaterra ako. Ang Inglaterra ay hindi bahagi ng States. Taga Alemanya ang asawa ko at mayroon kaming 3 anak. Nag-aaral ang aming panganay na babae sa Faith Academy sa Manila. Kaya wala siya rito ngayon. 7 taon na siya at halos 4 na taon na ang aming gitnang anak na lalaki. Labang 6 na buwan na ang aming bunsong si Stephanie.
We have quite a large staff, so it's necessary every Tuesday morning to have a weekly 2-hour meeting for prayer, Bible study and mutual edification and encouragement. As language learners attached to Tanawan Bible Church, the staff invite us along and we're able to listen and to contribute in Tagalog when appropriate. This meeting is something that's held on a weekly basis, and it gives us all an opportunity just to see what's going on in the area and for everybody to be able to communicate with one another. In a country where there are no phones or where phones are hard to come by, it's very important that we're able to get together on a regular basis so that we all know what each one of us is doing.
And here we are now right at river level, going through the outskirts of the town of Pangsanyan. And it seems quite pleasant. The day is slightly overcast, which will probably be better for our sun burning or sun tanning features. We need a bit of cloud really, but otherwise it's a pleasant morning here in the Philippines. Here at Pangsanyan Falls, one of the main tourist attractions in the country. It's been such a notorious place over the last year that it managed to get itself struck off the places to visit from Manila because of the bad behavior of various people when they came here, and 1 or 2 other problems associated with tourism in the town. We're coming up to these rapids now, and this is where the boat has left us, the motorboat which brought us up this far, and now our boatmen, they are beginning to paddle up towards the rapids. So we are going to have a bit of a bumpy time, I think. I'm not quite sure what the intention is here. Seems that keep your hands inside the boat. Yeah, we seem to be able to. What? What? Ilan mga rapids? 16. Oh yeah.
Keep rolling, Chris.
Here we are. The boatmen are now helping us to get up these rapids, and it's quite the water's quite rough, as you can see, and there's rocks. And the boatmen now, they're standing on the river floor and pushing both the boats up. We're going up one after the other. It's quite wet and splashy. My trousers are getting wet, but now we're getting into the second bit. Moving towards the second bit now. We seem to, the Chris Jones and Susanne boat has now completed the rapids, but we seem to be stuck. I think some of the water's being taken out of the boat, which was wetting my bottom But now we're going forwards. We're coming up into the next placid part, and I think you can say that we have successfully shot the first rapids on the Pangasinan River on this Saturday morning here in January. Wouldn't you like to be here rather than freezing in good old England? It's I'm sorry for all of you who are watching this that you can't be here and have such fun, but I'm sure that you'll find other diversions like the rugby internationals this afternoon to keep you happy. Already got some very high cliffs. We're in the middle of the river now. We've come up 2 sets of rapids and the cliffs tower way above us, and it's quite dark down here. There's just a little bit of sunlight creeping in onto the sides of the cliffs. And there are people coming back towards us, so we were not the first, that's for sure.
Why? We are going to get soaked!
Here we're going up there, another set of rapids here. It's a very narrow one between rocks, and our boatman performing with tremendous skill as we try not to crash into the rocks. We come round one side and the other. It's an extremely hazardous operation for them, but we seem to have made it up to the next place. We're just coming up to the falls at the end of this rather long boat ride, and they are, with the sun shining down over them, they're beginning to look very spectacular. I can't actually get that shot in there. Come this way. As we now come to see the falls in their entirety. place where this trip started from, we reflect on the beauty of God's creation here in the Philippines. Once again, this country has proved itself to be a very beautiful place, full of different places to visit if you can manage to find them. Some children playing on the bank there with making sandcastles. Looks a little bit precarious there, but very much the way things are in this town. It's very hot midday, and I'll sign off here by saying that I need to have a siesta, but I won't get one.